right? Are you intro? Am I intro?
Are you? Hello, my name is Intro.
Am I intro?
My parents' outro and
Middle.
welcome to another episode of Opt-in. Today, Alex, we have 5 minutes to discuss the importance of tracking your pipeline, something that I think goes unnoticed or maybe undeserved in a lot of the top tier SDR tips and tricks and advice that you can give out. Really just having a handle on your nurture accounts and your pipeline accounts and how effective you are at sort of combing through those on a regular basis and how that impacts your overall success. So I'd love to get your take and maybe some advice from you on how you as an SDR were able to track your pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super important part of the job that I think you're right, not a ton of people talk about. But in reality, it's just as likely as you either get a lead, you disqualify someone, or they become part of your pipeline. And I think that's vague enough and broad enough of a term that people do different things with it. You know, some people will be like, all right, that's pipeline. Here you go, marketing. You just like reach out to them. Other people will be like, maybe I'll reach out, but don't track it very well. There's a lot of things you can do, but I think there are some right steps that you need to take. And if you do that, it becomes really easy to convert these nurtured accounts into leads 6 months, even a year down the road. So yeah, I think tracking pipeline is really important. Everyone can do it sort of their own special way, whatever works best for them. But I think it does deserve its own place. Sort of if you want to say 3 true outcomes, just like sports has, SDRs do too, right? You pass a lead, you disqualify, or you nurture, and that nurture account is really setting yourself up for success down the road.
Yeah, I think to a point that you brought up, how you do it doesn't necessarily matter as much as the fact that like you are doing it. There are certainly ways that people will preach about like, hey, if you have something like a nurture account and it's not in your CRM, it doesn't exist. Like you hear that all the time. And frankly, I don't necessarily agree with it. I think everyone has their own unique way that works for them to track their pipeline accounts, you know, when to reach out, any specific information that you need to bring up in a follow-up conversation, stuff like that. Personally, I used a combination of my CRM and just a notebook. Like at the back of a notebook, I would just write down all of the important accounts that I knew I had previous conversations with that looked promising for time frame wise 3 or 6 month follow-ups. And then at those times, at 3 months, I would look through, see the accounts that I should follow up with, have some basic notes in there, and then go into my CRM, pull them, and actually follow up with them. So it's a system that worked for me. Maybe it doesn't work for you. That's totally fine. But I think that you have to do something, right? Like you can't just put notes in your CRM and hope that in 2 months you remember to call Bob at Nike because he said that they'd be evaluating solutions at that point, right? You can't trust yourself to be able to remember that with all the stuff you have going on.
Yeah, I don't know what I did last week, let alone what I did.
I don't know what I had for breakfast this morning, and that was like 4 hours ago.
No, but you're spot on, and I think tracking it in the CRM, that was always how I did. I like to keep it all within the system, so it meant taking detailed notes, putting notes on the task, the follow-up task, setting all that, and having a system in place where I would know like these are the shorthand abbreviations I'd use to say like this is good pipeline, or this is probably someone that still needs another few months, sort of that type of thing. One thing I think is interesting to note about pipeline and why it's so important is because it's a huge factor in the time to ramp period, right? So with all of our clients, we usually tell it takes 30 to 90 days, depending on sort of their system setup, to get an SDR ramped up to be producing consistent numbers. So the numbers you see after month 3 or 4 is sort of the number you can expect to see. A huge part of that is because when you start as an SDR, you have no pipeline. Everything you do is outbound if you're doing it yourself. But over time, you build up this pipeline, so then you can have a consistent churn of, okay, now I've got people from 3 months ago. A month later, I've got people from 3 months before that. Like it becomes part of your system to allow you to hit those numbers consistently.
Yeah, and to that point, it just helps with forecasting in general. Like if I, as an SDR, am taking dedicated notes and letting my manager know what my pipeline looks like, then in the future, it helps them better understand like, hey, look, like I don't know, we've got a huge conference coming up in May. And because of that conference, we have a bunch of inbound leads that are coming in. So we know that in May, you're going to be flooded with calls that you have to make and people that you're prospecting, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. So you're probably going to see a bump in overall pipeline and activity at that point. And then you look ahead at July, we know that's a slow time of the year. So let's go ahead and build up pipeline now, forecast that in May, look ahead to June, July, and August, and know, hey, we've got a big boost of activity we can make because of the fact that you tracked pipeline from this conference, and that we know that we can better forecast what the summer is going to look like, typically a slow time of year. So it's not just helping you as an SDR because you can make money off of your pipeline, but it's helping the organization overall more holistically understand what is the future going to look like.
Absolutely. Track your pipeline. Helps everybody out.
Do it. Just do it.
I don't think we can use Nike's slogan, but
I used that's 2 times in this episode. We mentioned Nike.
All right, AJ, 15 seconds. Tell everyone about opt-in.
Opt-in, quick, 5-minute videos, no fluff, actionable tips. You can find us on our YouTube, on our LinkedIn, on our Instagram, and on the website, demanddrive.com.
Oh, yeah. You
Like make a template for the timer, you know?
Yeah, like have a dedicated section somewhere, like in the middle or off on the corners or something for
Just wherever your face is.
yeah. It's Mike Wazowski me.
Yep.
Oh my God, I made the cover of the magazine.